Are we going to cheat sickness and death in the years to come? Because there are people who dare to say that, right?
You don't have a more difficult question.
Yeah. No, my next question is how?
Look, this is probably the biggest challenge of this century. How to deal with the increased longevity, which is obviously a blessing, but how to deal with it in a way that none of the other pieces of the puzzle were designed to assume longevity, be it pensions, be it housing, be it employment. You know, so I assume you don't want to get into that kind of a philosophical discussion, but from the straight healthcare, what we see is a big shift away from pharmaceuticals, which in general have a lot of side effects because it's very difficult for a drug to only impact whatever it is you're trying to fix, to devices that are very targeted. And there are startups in Israel that are dealing with pain with a very, very simple patch that has a lot of complexity built into it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's at least steps in that direction.
It's a basically yes.
I think the term we're looking for is patient-specific medicine.
Okay.
You probably heard about patient-specific shoes, patient-specific cars, patient-specific medicine. And I think in the near term, rather than extending the life, and we're going to improve the quality of life. So sort of to say people are going to die healthy instead of...
People are going to die healthy. That's a very interesting concept.
They're going to be aging, and then that's it.
That's a very optimistic...
And that's the blessing that we're all looking for, instead of, deterioration and being dependent on assistant quality of life. This is the key, and patient-specific medicine.
So I wanted to ask you something on that sense. Does robot, for some people, going to replace, are robots going to replace, for some people, loneliness? Or are we going to see people having a relationship with robots?
Yeah, that's already...
Because I just want to say that, I don't know if you know that, like 10 years ago, there was a guy who married a character from a computer game. So he actually married a character from a computer game. There are couples of people who got married in virtual reality environments without meeting each other ever, and they are married and they are having a relationship. So this whole being in a relationship with something you cannot touch and feel is something that already happens.
I always tell my students, look at the films. Hollywood predicts everything. I think the movie name was Hair, when he had relationships with this virtual thing. But, for the last 10 years at least, there are researchers that work on companion robots, and it has been shown that, at least for old people, whether they pat a robotic dog or a live dog, it's almost the same. Children on the spectrum, autism, responds much better to robotic face, than to human face. So robots are being used to rehabilitate and train and communicate with children on the autism spectrum. And as I said, old people, it's already proven, psychological research that it's already there. We're already there.
Matan,
sir,
what's the most exciting thing about autonomous cars?
Most exciting thing about autonomous cars.
The most exciting thing for you. Do you want a different question?
Yes, please. I'll take question number 2, please. I think that the discovering what's going to happen in the world of the autonomous driving, I think it's going to change the way we perceive a vehicle. We went through a few revolutions in the world of personal computing. So at first there was a mainframe was a personal computer, then VAX systems, and then the actual personal computer came. And then we migrated to mobile platforms. So we spoke about smartphones, tablets, now wearables. And I think, and I don't think I'm alone in this, that people predict that the next personal computing platform is going to be vehicles. And we have to stop thinking about drivers as a person holding the wheel, but actually as a user who's consuming content in the form of applications, in the form of information, and then of course the interaction with the vehicle itself, but not as a driver again, but as a user. So the most exciting thing for me, similar to what happened in the world of personal computing and mobile computing, to see what applications are going to be coming. Like, what are we going to be doing in cars in the future as the car is driving itself to its destination? I like your question. Thank you. I liked it.
Perfect.
Maybe we'll be able to
Yariv.
perform surgery in the car.
Yeah, hopefully not. Yariv, so we've talked earlier, and you told me that starting next year, probably we'll see many, many drones out there, right? So tell me how our life is going to look like starting next year, like day to day. What kind of like real problems are going to be solved on our day-to-day basis?
It's your normal day-to-day problems of your kid is now screaming because the toy is dead and you need new batteries. So instead of taking the kid, putting him in the car, driving to get new batteries, you can just order them and they'll be
Or
there
if the
in
kid at
15
school
minutes.
and he forgot to take his lunch.
Exactly. Or you're making dinner and you want some new fresh tomatoes. It's going to affect you in the most, day-to-day activity. That's where you're going to feel it. When you're ordering a shirt online, it can reach out to you in 15 minutes instead of next day or 2 days from now, or you going to the mall. And it's going to change retailers.
Is it going to be cheaper than using like those people on motorcycle who risk their
It
lives?
is.
Really
It's
risk
a
their
lot
lives,
cheaper, a lot faster. Maintenance is lower. One guy can operate a fleet of drones. They're electric. The maintenance is much lower. It's going to be a lot faster, so the bandwidth of each vehicle is higher. That's why everybody is running towards drone deliveries today, or thinking of, because when you do the math, it's 1/5, 1/10 of the price of owning a fleet of trucks that's now traveling around the city, stuck in traffic jams with people on it serving the truck and delivering the goods.
How much weight can you put on a drone?
Well, there are a few amazing drone companies out there. We're using their products. 2 years ago, I would probably take 0.5 kilo to 5 kilometers in very nice weather. Today, our solution can take 3 kilograms to 10 kilometers and fly back, even if there's wind and rain. All I have to do is sit back and wait for a few Chinese companies to build the next drone, and 2 years from now, maybe the distance will grow, the weight will grow, the resistance to weather will grow.
So, you know what I saw on YouTube, everybody I guess saw that, Facebook, YouTube. We already see people using drones to fly, right? They are standing on those drones or sitting on them.
I call them the wireless selfie sticks.
Is this going to happen like in 5 years, 10 years? People are going to use drones to go from one place to another?
That's going to take a bit longer. There's a huge difference between carrying cargo. There are problems with carrying cargo as well. You can crash into other airplanes. You can crash on a city. And aviation safety today is very safe, the general aviation, and it has to be kept that way. When you put people on board, it adds another safety criteria. Everything's a lot harder. But I think that in the long term, 10 years from now, we're going to see people flying with drones as well. It's not exactly that flying car that we've imagined, but once there's a commercial benefit in doing that, it's going to happen.
Very interesting. Jeff, you said that the world is aging, right? That means that we're living longer, and the quality of life is also increasing. So we're becoming older, but we live better, right? So in what way is the world going to change because we're becoming older?
Well, I think there's going to be a whole new industry based upon allowing people that in the past we would have considered old, but people, let's say in their 60s and 70s and 80s, that in the prior generation may have just sat home and not done too much. They're all of a sudden going to have time on their hands. They'll have disposable income. They'll have money available. And they'll be looking for new adventures. And when I say adventures, I don't necessarily mean extreme, but I wouldn't exclude that also. But I think for the larger number of people, it'll be all new types of entertainment, of learning, and using their time in a positive manner.
Okay, perfect. So You know, I'm from the world of cybersecurity. So whenever I hear technology, I think about the risks, right? So let's talk about that for a second, because when I think about drones, I think about privacy and cameras in the air and everybody can see what we're doing. When I think about biotech, I think about hackers that can hack insulin pumps and pacemakers and kill people. When I think about autonomous cars, right? You're sitting in the car and suddenly you hear this voice saying, we took over your car, either you will pay us 3 Bitcoins or we couldn't put your car inside a wall. And this is what I think. Yeah, maybe I'm a little pessimistic, but this is how I get my money. So I want to hear about the bad side of things from you in each and
A
every one
fleet
of
of
your
drones flying above the city autonomously. What could possibly go wrong?
When I would speak with healthcare companies, again, in my role as a venture capitalist in medtech, 5 years ago, about cyber type issues, they looked at me like I was crazy. Today, they are all coming to us and desperately seeking solutions. Obviously, the case you mentioned with the insulin pump that was taken over by a hacker, just to show the possibilities, that's one. There was another case with a company named St. Jude that had some reports of problems in their heart devices. Hospitals, think about the information that is available in a hospital, including prescriptions, including drugs that are given to patients. Every day there are human mistakes, certainly, but just think of if the wrong people got access to those systems and intentionally gave to wide numbers of people things that they shouldn't be getting. So I think the entire healthcare world has woken up to the challenge of cyber, both at the level of devices as well as at the level of hospital systems. And that's going to have major updates in the next 5 years, I'd say.
So, you know, whenever we develop new technology, we need to think about ethics. So not just about harming, but also about this information that is out there. So just the fact that the prescriptions, everything is online somehow. You know, one day I'm going to call my insurance agents, buying insurance for, I don't know, going abroad, and he's going to tell me, sorry, you're not eligible because our system detected that you're taking medication, you visited your doctor too many times a year. So it's not just about harming something, but the information is, you know, sensors, smart sensors going to be all over the place. So data is going to be collected from us on a daily basis. So ethics is a huge
ethics is a very
issue.
interesting thing. The thing that happened in, I think it was Target. Are you familiar with this story? Do you want to tell the story?
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Not with the
So
Target.
at
I thought about another story.
No. So Target, I think it was Target, they sent a promotional mail to a 16-year-old girl about getting pregnant and having kids. And she came from a religious house, and her father opened the email, and he saw that they sent her this, and he was super angry, and he came there, and he started yelling at them, and he said he's going to sue them. But the thing that he didn't know is that his kid was actually pregnant. And they could conclude that based on information that they collected. And that raised the question of ethics. Was it okay for them to use this information in order to send a 16-year-old girl from a religious house a message about getting pregnant? Right. So that was a question. No, I'm just
You should ask the rabbi.
That was a story.
Ask the rabbi. Well, when I think of ethics, I can think of something else. You know, today you can, you have robotic limbs, FDA-approved robotic arms, Dykan's, DECA arms, U-hairs, robotic limbs, robotic eyes, ears. You know, it's commercially available. And I just want to take you for, try to imagine, I don't know how many, probably familiar with dental implants. So I can tell you for a fact, I've spoken with several deans of medical schools that dentists are very easy on the plier pulling out tooth today because they have a very good solution, they think they have, by the way, the dental implants. Well, I'll take you 50 years into the future. A person gets into the emergency room of Tel Aviv Medical Center in Ichilov. He just smashed himself on the floor, riding his motorcycle or his car or automated car. And the orthopedic surgeon looks at him and he tells him his broken foot. And he tells him, why bother? It's like, almost like a tooth. Let's put it out
Let's put it- so-
and put you robotic limbs. So,
Yeah, sounds exciting.
it's like, we can treat our
Okay, I
limbs
got it.
and what
That's
like
the ethics
too.
you're gonna-
This is
you're
it.
really-
This is
oh.
it. Ethics. How far can we go?
But Dan, your field is very exciting with regards to cybersecurity.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we come, I think, from the same place. So I also tend to be more pessimistic when I see new technology emerging, and I'm always thinking about how to break into it, how to break stuff up. And I think that this is where we need to understand that. And you spoke about this at the beginning about disruption, and I think we need to understand that we also need to disrupt the way we're doing disruption. So we can't just come up with new technologies, shoot them out there into the market and see what happens, see if it blows up, right? We need to start thinking about security, cybersecurity as an integral part of everything we build and everything that we launch, and not to do everything as an aftermarket, as an afterthought process.
Yeah,
And,
but maybe give us an example of one of the risks that we might face in the world of autonomous and smart cars.
Well, I think what we've seen until now are cases where researchers were able to prove that they can hack into cars remotely. So the most infamous case was, of course, with Jeep, a more recent Jeep from Chrysler, from FCA. A more recent case was with Tesla, that hackers just recently managed to show that they
China,
can.
right?
I think it was not in Singapore. Yes,
China,
yeah, I think so, maybe in China. So researchers were able to show that they could actually take full control over a vehicle remotely. So we were talking, Yariv was asking, well, what could possibly be wrong with a swarm of drones, right? 20 drones flying autonomously over a vehicle, over a city. Think about 4 million vehicles driving autonomously in a city, and a person is controlling them somewhere in an unspoken country. So I think the risk is there, but it goes back to the question of trust, because it's not really important whether or not the hacker is able to hack into the car and able to do it, but rather if the companies are able to control this process and contain it. And I think this is where, again, we need to bring back people's trust in technology.
Trust is very, very important. Do you want to add to your what's going to go wrong answer?
So yes, of course, we take those things very seriously. In our team, we've got more than 40 years of experience in cyber. Besides that, we have advisors. One of them is a cryptography professor from NYU. It's a huge risk. Nothing can be 100% safe, but a swarm of drones flying above a city, that's a very lucrative target for hackers to play with. So there are a few levels of mitigation. I won't go into it, but as always, the cost of breaking into the system should be pretty high, as that it will be easier to just get a guy, buy a drone, and do whatever you want, instead of hacking through the system.
Okay, so it's a very exciting panel for me. Guys, there. Guys.
Xaverim?
Guys. It's a very exciting panel for me in the sense that you're all part of the movement to create a better world. You're all doing something. So if you had one message to give to young entrepreneurs or people who want to be part of that, want to create their own company, want to do something that will be meaningful, what would it be?
Quoting our President Peres, we all know the news today, unfortunate news, be optimistic. I think this was his message all the time. Be optimistic, look into the future, don't be pessimistic. So in this sad day, I'm allowing myself to quote him, and I think be pessimistic. Optimistic, not pessimistic, excuse me, optimistic. Yeah. I'm being pessimistic today because of the sad news. But
yeah, you cannot say to a cybersecurity guy, be optimistic. It doesn't work for us. Then we will not have any business, right?
Going exactly to quoting Peres in the I think not the last, maybe the one before that cyber conference, he spoke and he said that what makes us as in Israelis very good at cybersecurity is that we question everything. We question everything and we're never satisfied. It's something very inherent in us and in the way that we're brought up to always second guess everything someone tells us, to always think about how to break stuff, and never to look at something and say, oh, this table is good, so I don't have to do anything about it. No, always think about how could I improve it, what could I do differently, and so on. So I think that anyone out there who's an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, I think you need to, if I could give you just one piece of advice, is to really connect to that part of you that is looking to change something, that is looking to make something better, something that you're passionate about, because it's a rough journey, I think we all know. And then you really have to have that passion about something that you're doing to be able to follow through.
So that's a very interesting recommendation. It's like, take the day-to-day life, whatever you see in front of you, and see it as an opportunity to do something better, right? So you say that we can see innovation everywhere, right? This is what you're trying to say.
This is exactly what I was trying to say. Thank you.
Perfect.
One of the things that I think has been critical in our success in Israel across all industries is that we're not afraid to fail. We're not necessarily looking to fail, certainly not, but we're not afraid to fail. And I know when I host delegations from other countries, that's something built into our culture that other cultures don't necessarily have. But one thing we're lacking from our culture is we're not looking enough at finish. Completing a project, a product, getting it to be close to 100%, where unfortunately I think, that aspect of the last couple of percent probably doesn't fit with the same genius of development and coming up with breakthrough technologies. But if we are able to improve on that, then I think we'd be able to also build very, very large successes and not limit ourselves to the type of great successes we've had today that aren't necessarily scaling.
Jeff, I think that the problem is that usually the last 10% take 90% of the time and resources. So
that's a problem with everyone. But our problem here is we don't want to do it.
Okay.
because it's just the last 10%, so why bother?
So, Yariv, your tip for inspiring entrepreneurs.
Keep your head up in the clouds, but your feet on the ground, which is quite hard to do. And as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, someone once told me it's not just about strategy. As the CEO, you're in charge of everything. If there's no toilet paper in the toilet, that's your responsibility, your overall responsibility as a CEO. So always, look very far on where you're going, but don't forget that your troubles are on a day-to-day basis, and you have to keep pushing from, pushing your employees to making sure that there's toilet paper in the toilets.
Wonderful. So, wonderful. I don't know how we can go on from that point.
I'm going to check the toilets.
and we have 6 minutes, but we don't have to finish because that's the Israeli way. So we can just, yeah. So.
And it's the 10%.
10%, yeah. That's going to take us 90% of the time now. 6 minutes. Perfect. So the world is going to change. We know that. Do you feel that at some point, maybe we've reached a phase where we have too much new invention, too much technology, too much new things? You go to the store, you buy a phone, till you go home, there is a new kind of phone, and you tell someone about this phone, and he asks you, oh, you didn't hear there was a new type of phone already.
Did you know the officer of the US Patent Office back in the late 19th century said that practically everything that could be invented has been invented, and from now on it's just rubbish. So
everything that could be invented already invented. It's like the Beatles,
that's what
right?
he said in the 19th century.
Yeah.
Just
Well, I think that the answer is not for us to determine. I think that technology is part of evolution. The same way that the stone was the high-tech industry in the Stone Age, or the metal was in the Bronze Age, technology is part of our evolution, and it's going to kill us or not. Who knows? That's, the only way we can do it is live long enough to know what the answer is. But it's exactly like any new technology at any time along history, from stone to language to metal to bronze to whatever.
So maybe to be the devil's advocate here, I actually tend to agree with what you said. I think that there is an excessive amount of entrepreneurship and innovation in that sense. And I think that has to do with the fact that some of the barriers for entrepreneurship has become very, very low. So I'm talking about obviously venture capital rolling in. I'm an entrepreneur with a startup, so keep the venture capital coming, please. But I'm talking about the all of the accelerator programs and the incubators and the programs that prepare you to accelerator programs and the programs that help you after you failed the accelerator programs, and like this entire ecosystem that was designed originally to do something good, which is to help entrepreneurs at the first early stages where they make all of the mistakes, right? We were talking about 90 and 10%, I'm talking about the 1%. Just getting to the point where you turn your thought into an idea, your idea into a business model and so on. And now I think we have a very excessive amount of that, and maybe if the barriers were just a little bit higher, then we would see better resource utilization. I mean market resource utilization, where bright people are going to bright ideas and resources, funds are going to things that are really going to change the world.
Okay. So, anyone wants to add to this? Okay. So, I'm sure most of you know that. Tonight died the 9th president of Israel, Shimon Peres. And he was a remarkable person. And one of the things, and this was already mentioned here, he was pro-technology. And he tried to push it everywhere. And he's tried to push science everywhere. And that was very, very exciting. So to conclude this session, what's the best thing you like or you love about Israel and the way we do things? Because we had some criticism. What do you like about how we do things here? Yeah.
Well, number one, I'll just repeat what I said earlier. I think what's great in our DNA is not being afraid to fail, not being afraid because someone tried an idea that didn't work a few times, that you won't be able to find a better way to do it. And I think that's one of the key secrets to our success.
Perfect.
I'll add that we're not afraid of tackling huge missions, even though they seem almost or completely impossible. And it's amazing to see that once you start that mission, like with Space IL, people will join you and will support you. And I'm talking about the presidents of universities and the chairman of the Israeli Space Agency, and all those people joined Space IL when we started, even though we had no clue where we were heading. And I think that's a very important part of the Israeli spirit, the amount of support that you'll receive, even though you're not there yet. It's only half-baked.
I think creativity. We need creativity to do anything, but I think people here are extremely creative, and they know how to improvise. I see my students, brilliant students. They know the material, they know the stuff very good, they know math, they know physics, but only those who are creative can develop new theories, new products, and Israelis are very good at being in creative thinking.
Perfect.
I don't know if what I'm going to say is unique to Israel, but it's something that I personally experienced growing up here in Israel, and that takes me back 15 years to my very, very first startup. I was sitting with a friend of mine, and we had this really brilliant idea because Google was just starting to become really popular, and we were thinking about how can we build a search engine that would be better than Google, and we were serious about it. And at the time, to be fair, it wasn't so difficult to be better than Google, but still, we were sitting talking about it. I don't know if you remember, but we were thinking about it, and then both of us at the same time said, yes, and after this works, we'll just buy Google.
Perfect.
This was a real conversation.
So not being realistic, because it's something you like about Israel. So, okay. So we're going to conclude it. I just want to say that the future of Israel is in working with other countries as much as for other countries to work with other countries. The world today is more connected than we've ever been, and this gives us an amazing opportunity to work together. DLD is an amazing place to share knowledge, to share ideas, to shake hands, and to exchange business cards. The things that happens inside the halls are as important as the things that happens outside the halls. People should talk. We should have more and more friends. I want to say thank you so much for the people who organized DLD for making this happen, for this giving us this opportunity to talk and meet each other. I want to say thank you so much, Yariv, Jeff, Alon, Matan, for participating here. Thank you so much for being here.
And thank you, Manny, for moderating everything.